Today I'm going to show you how to do creative shapes in one-point perspective. If you have room on the paper you did your boxes on, you definitely can do it on the same paper, but you may want to start over on a second sheet of paper, and that's fine as well. So I started by drawing a couple shapes that are different or creative just before I started the video, just because so it would take less time. But you're going to want to go ahead and pause the video and draw your shapes. Once you have that, you can push play and continue on and follow the steps. Okay, so I want to start by adding my vanishing point. Now, in the last activity, when you drew your boxes, you put the vanishing point in the middle. The vanishing point can really go anywhere on your paper. It can be low, it can be high. I'm just going to put mine over here. So if you look, mine is definitely over on the side of the paper, but it really could go anywhere you see fit. So the premise is the same as it was when we drew the boxes. So to start with, I'm going to start with this shape. I'm going to bring the corner to the vanishing point. So this shape is a little below the vanishing point on one point, or below your eye level. So it's below the vanishing point. And this point is above the vanishing point, as is this one. So I'm just going to draw those 3 points to the vanishing point. And that's all this one would need. Okay? And then I'm going to go to my next box, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw the corner to the vanishing point and this point to the vanishing point as well. And this corner, really, I would have to check. That really doesn't work. Okay? There's sort of a point right here, so I'm going to draw this as well. Okay? Now, if this was your actual project, you'd be drawing these lines very lightly because eventually you'd need to erase them. I'm not going to draw them lightly because you need to see them. Okay, so this is a circle. It has no lines or points, but I'm going to match my ruler up at the vanishing point and just scooch it over to the outside edge. So I'm going to draw the outside edge in. And because it's got a hole, I'm going to do the same thing on the hole, but I'm just going to make a mark. So this comes to about here. And then on the other side, it touches about here. Okay? So those are the two spots right there where it would sort of line up with the vanishing point. This triangle here. And for your creative shapes, you can do a shape with a lot of points. It could have just a few points. You can be as creative and as difficult as you want, or you can stick with something simpler as well. I'm going to do another one that's got let's do something with a lot of points. How's that? This and this. Okay. So now what I'm going to do with this last shape is the same thing. I'm going to draw the points to the vanishing point. This one is in line with this, so let's do this one here. This one would go here. Keep these lines light. Okay. This point wouldn't really work, so I'm just going, because it would go right through the shape, so I'm just going to do this point. This point as well goes through the shape, which is okay. I'm just going to draw it part way and then stop. If you know something's lined up with the vanishing point, you don't necessarily have to draw it all the way. And I'm just going to draw a hole in here as well. I'm going to turn my paper over here. Okay. So now I'm ready to close up these shapes. So when it comes to this triangle, what I would do is I would put my ruler on the side and just move my ruler toward the vanishing point and create a parallel side here. So that would be the 3D part of this triangle. Okay? Here, for the hole, I just have to see if this lines up with the vanishing point. Okay. With this hole, I would just put it here and scooch it over. And I want to keep the thickness sort of consistent with the other side. So you might see this inside section. Okay, and if this was my project, these lines would get erased and I would just have this shape. Okay, so I'm going to clean up those edges. Okay, for this one right here, this is the next easiest one. I'm going to just close up this shape, keeping this line parallel, bringing it straight out, and then doing the same on this side. I would take this line, match my ruler up with the side, and draw straight down until I met that other point, and then close it out. And then I would add my shading in. And I'm obviously going faster than I would if I was working on this for my project and with a lot less care and precision. Okay, just because otherwise you guys are going to have a 30-minute video. Okay, so for this shape, I'm going to match my straight edge up with the side, and I'm going to pull it out. And this would actually disappear behind the shape here. So I've got that. I'm going to erase that point. And this point, same thing. And I'm going to try to keep it sort of a consistent thickness. And match up the ruler. I'm going to slide it out and close it off. Got this one. And this one here, same thing. Match the side, pull it over. And you might say, oh, that's a little off, and then you just take stock and fix what you need to fix. Okay. So now all the shapes that are basically comprised of angles are closed off. So I've got 3 shapes. For this shape, this has got a weird side. Do you see that? So for the straight side, I'm just going to bring it up, match it up, bring it down. Okay, and it's all about parallel lines. So right here, I need a line that's parallel to this one. So I can just try to draw my own sort of version of that goofy side so that I've got something that's parallel. Over here with the circle, I'm going to need another parallel line in here that follows the curve of a circle. So I'm going to take, you can use, you don't even have to make a circle, but you don't have, if you are making the circle, you can use anything that's round. But I'm going to just scooch, I'm going to use the same one, I think it was this one, and I'm just going to scooch it down a little bit toward the vanishing point to close it off. So I've got a shadow here for a 3-dimensional side. I'm not adding this shading. And for the whole, the shading would be on the opposite side. So if I take this here and I scooch it down to the vanishing point, and I matched it up with those 2 other little parts, the dots I did before, and I'm going to add the shading. So now I've got 4 sort of creative shapes. So I'm going to show you one more thing, and that's how to do a checkerboard. Since I'm running out of space, I'm going to move it this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where I want my checkerboard to start. And let's say I wanted my checkerboard to start right at the edge of the paper. So I'm going to make my checkerboard, inches. I'm going to make my checkerboard right here, and I'm going to make my checkerboard 3 inches long, and I'm going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. So I've got these points just on the edge of my paper, and those are the points that I'm going to draw to my vanishing point. And I can give you links for stairs and all sorts of creative shapes. For your project, you'll have an option to do block letters if you want, okay? So you can see I've got these lines going back to the vanishing point, okay? My checkerboard could go all the way to the vanishing point, or if I wanted, I could stop it at some point, okay? So let's say I wanted to stop it there. So if I wanted to erase it here out, that could almost be like a brick wall, and I could add the brick pattern in. Okay, I think I'm going to keep it right now going all the way to the vanishing point. So now what I'm going to do, since these lines are going this way to the vanishing point, I'm going to make my other lines so that my other lines are also parallel to the bottom of the checkerboard. So I would go straight up, and I'm going to start at the point, and I'm going to pull this out a little bit, and I'm going to close it off. And if you think about checkers, as they get closer to the vanishing point, or if you look down the hall, like at a floor pattern, they get closer together. So as I go back, I'm going to make my checkers sort of gradually get farther apart. So you might need to adjust that. I'm just using a ruler now. One reason I like using a triangle or even the edge of a piece of paper is that you can use this 90-degree angle. So what I can do is if I put this 90-degree angle or even another piece of paper or cardboard at the end of my paper, I can see where this line needs to be for it to stay 90 degrees. And then I don't have to worry about eyeballing it. And then I can just keep going out a little farther each time. There is a specific formula and way to make your checkers perfectly even. And I can show you how to do that if you choose to do checkers in your project. That would be fine too. Okay, so this is creating a checkerboard pattern. Okay, and then later on you would go in and you could just lightly give, you know, if you wanted to in color you could, but you don't have to. You could lightly give some pencil shading to each of your checkers. If you wanted to make a brick wall or a wood floor, it's almost the same thing, except for this time, instead of going all the way across with your lines, you would just skip every other one. And that one I extended a little too far. And I'm going to pull that out a little more. And then I would do the other lines. So you would end up with sort of an alternating pattern. So you can see how that is. If I put this to the side, can you see how that would be a brick wall? Okay, or it could be floorboards. Okay, that would be fine as well. Okay, so these are just a couple different options. I showed you how to do a brick wall or floorboards, checkers, a shape with a hole, some shapes with more than 3 or 4 sides, a circular shape, but what you're going to do now is you're going to try to do 4 shapes that are different from one another. Size and shapes you can vary, and if you can fit it on your paper with your squares you can, or you can go ahead and create a new paper.